Hey, soldiers, I got a couple of stories for you here that are more proof, first, as to why you need to be as self-sufficient economically and otherwise as possible. And also, the other story we're going to deal with demonstrates why these major metropolitan areas are devolving in terms of their economics and in terms of their political representation. These are not places that I would invest in. Okay, so I wouldn't buy a house there. I definitely wouldn't want to live there. This is more or part and parcel, I would say, of this soft secession that is occurring. We're seeing and have been seeing economic secession in terms of folk migrating from high tax, high crime, blue states to states that, yeah, sure, they might have crime, but they got some gun laws that help people feel safe when they're walking the streets. And many of these areas also have lower crime. A viewer at one point tried to tell me that California was safer than Texas. And while California certainly does have some areas that are safer than some areas in Texas, when we look at it in the aggregate, the state as a whole, California is more dangerous. Okay, now sure, California's a big state geographically and population wise, so I'm not saying it's a hellscape. All right, if you go up into Northern California, it's a different vibe. All right, as opposed to South Central LA. All right, but the problem, one of the problems with these cities is the representation, the quality of representation that you're getting. Okay, so whoever runs for office is not like, there's a standout statesman, standout intellectual or philosopher king that's coming out of any of these cities, these big cities at this point in the history of the United States of America. Guys, go ahead and hit subscribe, enlist, become a soldier of finance. Let me know you did so in the comments. I will salute you. The channel's growing and I thank you for it. Now, another thing I want to thank you for is the fact that you guys have been pressing that thumbs up like nobody's business. Go ahead, hit it now, because it helps so much with the growth of the channel. It is a vote of confidence. I'm glad you have, more and more of you have been hitting that thumbs up, and I really appreciate it. Now, first thing we got is this melee that erupted at a Minneapolis Democratic nominating convention. Okay. Look, violence in American politics is really nothing that is new. Okay, this goes way back into the founding of the nation even. Okay, if you look, there have been fights that have broken out in the Congress back in the early stages of the Union that almost became deadly. Okay, you even had a sitting vice president, Aaron Burr, shoot and kill Alexander Hamilton, who was the first Secretary of the Treasury. Okay, so violence in the political arena is nothing new, but it is not inaccurate to say that we have gone for a long, long time without it. But I think that as we, as the country starts to delve further into experimenting with being a banana republic, we're going to see more of this. And keep in mind that this type of behavior, if they can't work among themselves as parties, okay, then, and when I say parties or factions of one party, then how do you think they're going to do in terms of managing an area where you pay property taxes, where you send your children to school, where you may own and operate a business, right? Where you may rely on police protection, okay, if you can find any more, because the police have gone into a reactive policing mode, and that is driven by the policies coming out of these urban areas, quite frankly, and that hurts minorities. Okay, that really, especially when you combine it with the fact that these deep blue liberal enclaves, these urban areas, the politicians don't want people to be able to protect themselves. They don't want law-abiding, tax-paying, hardworking citizens to be able to carry a firearm if they so choose. A convention of Democrat city council candidates, so they're all Democrats in this case, devolved into utter chaos on Saturday prompting a police and ambulance response and the session to be shut down without finishing its business. The convention was being held by the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, which, in something of an historical quirk, is also the official name of Minnesota's affiliate of the Democrat National Party. And I call them Democrat. I don't say Democratic. There's nothing democratic about the other party in America these days. In fact, many of these people in this incident, they come right out and say they're socialist. The trouble began when incumbent council member Aisha Chugtai, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. If I'm not, please give me a phonetic spelling in the comments, took to the stage to deliver her 10-minute candidate presentation. To provide an impressive backdrop, the Chugtai campaign asked supporters to take the stage and stand behind her as she spoke. That triggered backers of Chugtai's challenger, Nasri Warsame, despite the fact that Warsame was randomly picked to speak second and could have ventured to match Chugtai's visuals by inviting a similar display. So the person who was going to speak second had the opportunity to, do the same thing she did. Just listen to what she has to say, and then you go next. In fact, because you're second, to me, that would have given you an advantage, because you could have watched what she did, listened to what she said, and been able to come behind her and kind of steal the show and counter some of her points. Okay. So that's always an advantage of coming, in one of these, coming in not first. Okay. Instead, supporters of Somali-born Warsame surrendered to violent impulses and reportedly initiated physical violence that included shoving, punches, and the hurling of objects. Many of them took to the stage themselves, yelling, waving Nasri signs, and pounding on tables. Recounting her feelings as she looked from the stage into the melee before her, Chugtai supporter Bridget Sojander told the Associated Press, I was scared some of us might die. Okay, so it must have gotten pretty heated if she had these concerns, right? Now, there's the party. These are people that are going to get elected to office. Those who get elected are going to take people from the same room and put them throughout their administration. They're going to put them in, important positions in the bureaucracy, throughout the bureaucracy, that sort of thing. And they're in there fighting in such a way that people think folk are going to die, okay? Brianna Ross Lee, she is a theater arts graduate and chair of the Minneapolis chapter of the party, tweeted that, quote, several DFL volunteers were assaulted, including 4 members of the state executive committee. I don't know the next steps, but there will be repercussions. There won't be any arrests, though. No one got arrested. One lady said that she thought people were going to die, and no arrests were made. This young lady, the theater arts major, came right out and said that people were assaulted, but no arrests were made. This tweet, a Ward 10 delegate sent me another angle of the scrum in front of the stage, which shows notorious DGP from the Chugtai campaign standing there, not engaging as Warsame supporters shove him. As the unrest continued, indignant convention chair Sam Doughton shouted condemnation through the PA system. This is embarrassing, quickly concluding there was little hope of restoring order. Doughton yelled, "We are shutting this down. This is no longer safe," before hammering a table with his gavel. Okay, police cars and ambulances raced to the convention. At least one person was taken to the hospital, and another was treated at the scene. Fittingly, for an eruption of Democrat-initiated violence, no arrests were made. Right, okay? The party of harmony, peace, love. And again, I'm giving them hell about this, but as I stated earlier, political violence is nothing new. Democrats' beloved multicultural diversity factored into the fracas, particularly in regard to Somali supporters of Warsame. One of his backers told the Minneapolis Star-Tribune that Warsame supporters were already agitated over what they perceived to be poor translations and unfair handling of the proceedings. It'd be nice if, they all spoke with one language, then the translation issue wouldn't be a problem. But I guess that's, I guess I'm being an ist. I can't figure out which one exactly. But that the Tower of Babel, no one knew what anyone else was saying, so it led to chaos, right? But we as humans don't learn from history. Maybe if they all spoke like, I'm just guessing, maybe if everybody just agreed to speak English, then, things would flow a little better. I don't know. You are in a country that's predominant language is English. Some may have misconstrued the mass gathering on the stage as a premature declaration of victory for Chungtai, a daughter of Pakistani immigrants and a self-avowed socialist. Chungtai was elected at the age of 24. So there's this trend that has been going around the country in the last few years of electing these very young people, extremely idealistic, haven't done a damn thing in the world other than win a popularity contest and maybe work for some nonprofit somewhere. Okay, but now they're in charge of budgets and multi-million-dollar budgets, and in some cases, depending on the size of the city, multi-billion-dollar budgets, like here in Baltimore. She's the youngest city. She's the city's youngest ever member of the city council. And look, man, if you get off on that kind of thing, fine. But just because you are, the youngest person to do something doesn't mean that you're going to do it well. But when you live in a nation that is, overwhelmed with saccharine type feelings and things like that, this is what you get. In the aftermath, both candidates exchanged accusations via social media. So I guess we can't call them cyber thugs because they actually reversed it and said we're going to do the physical thing first and then we'll take it to social media. Hilariously looking to maximize intersectionality victimhood credits, Chungtai said Warsame supporters punched multiple women of color, and shoved and harassed LGBTQIA2S plus delegates and supporters. Is it just me, or does the LGBT acronym, does it like add a character annually? Warsame accused DFL staff of resorting to corrupt practices in an attempt to cheat the democratic process. This included the involvement of Ilhan Omar's staff and Keith Ellison's son, adding to the turmoil and conflict. It is our hope that the DFL staff will take responsibility for their actions and work towards rectifying the damage caused by their misconduct. Here is, a young lady who has been hospitalized due to the fracas. That's not good. State Party Chairman Ken Martin, however, firmly pinned the blame on the Warsame camp. It is clear that the conflict was instigated by supporters of City Council candidate Nasri Warsame. And look, guys, if I'm mispronouncing any of these names, Jesus, give me a phonetic spelling in the comments. Harassment and violence are unacceptable, and we expect candidates and their campaign teams to work hard to curb such behavior when it comes from their supporters, staffers, blah, 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 blah. So they're going to convene an emergency meeting this week to consider banning from the party people who were at fault. So some of these people might have to migrate to different cities and take their socialist progressive BS and infect another area. In a Sunday statement, Warsame reiterated his accusations of DSL mismanagement and said accusations by DFL and Chungtai that Warsame's campaign promoted the violence are defamatory, slander, and libel. Warsame did apologize for the violence, saying, quote, "The purpose of my entire platform is supporting public safety and ensuring that the constituents in Ward 10 are safe from violence, of rampant car thefts and assaults in our community." Oh, well, he failed at that, didn't he? Because he came in with that kind of thing going on. So that's what's going on. And look, the socialist thing never works. Just give it time. It will again prove itself an utter failure. There was a socialist restaurant that recently went belly up because they had this thing going on where they were saying, oh, you pay what you feel like paying, what you're capable of paying, each according to, his own ability and means. And so the economic model just didn't work, and they had to end up closing their doors because socialism does not work. It works, in a book maybe, but once you have to take it out of the faculty lounge and put it into, actual practice, then, falls apart every time. So Minneapolis, if you're thinking about moving there and buying a business there, buying a house there, putting your kids in a Minneapolis school, you might want to either buy some boxing gloves and get some lessons, or pick another area. All right. Look, the global order is terrified about what's happening. States in the United States, countries are bucking the order and saying, you know what, we're going to do things differently. Okay, I want you to watch this video. The IMF is pretty pissed off at a particular country because they're saying, we're backing away from this dollar. All right, things are getting too hairy. We're going to back away from it and diversify. This is happening again and again and again. Meanwhile, we have people like Kevin O'Leary saying, oh, nothing will happen to the dollar. Watch this video, guys, and I will talk to you soon.